Hey everybody. This is the product data feeds session, and we have one slide. There you go. My name is Jangro, and I've been in the affiliate industry for 10 years or so, and Datafeeds has been a big part of that. And I started out working at a network called Be Free, which doesn't exist anymore, though I think a few of you probably have heard of it. And I was on the product side there, and I'm just going to give a story about Datafeeds and kind of the history of how things went back in, I think, 2000. And when we talk about Datafeeds, we talk about product data. We use the word Datafeeds, but it's not always Datafeeds per se. Product data existed back then, but the people who had access to the raw data on the affiliate, and I'll also say that because of all the different places I've worked and policies about whether it's called affiliate or publisher or merchant or advertiser, you guys can translate in your heads. I use both words interchangeably. So only a select few publishers, affiliates, had access to this product data. So we were giving them feeds of product data, but only kind of the chosen few. The people the publishers who had established themselves, who were big earners, successful publishers already had access to this extra data. And I took a look at that and said, look, let's give this data to everybody. There's kind of catch-22 here. There's this great opportunity, this great product information, this content that publishers can use and become big publishers with that data. And so I proposed this and said, look, I want to give this product data to anybody who wants it. Let's do it. And the support manager at the time said, no. Do you know how much data that is? That's gigabytes. But I fought for it and said, look, I will do it. I will set these up. And so I finally got them to allow me to do this. And so I spent the next year of my life there trying to get out of setting up data feeds for people, manually setting up FTP accounts. But the great thing about it was that it was just the regular guys, the regular publishers who had great ideas about what to do with this, and were able to get access to this data for the first time, at least at our company. And I know that at the other networks, the same kind of thing was starting to happen in the affiliate space. This idea of making more information available to the affiliates, the partners, to do stuff with it. And some amazing stuff happened. Some really crappy stuff happened as well. A lot of junk sites got created with this data, but some really great ideas started to appear out there. I think that what we learned was that sharing and making this information available is the right thing to do, even though there are ramifications of making that information available, but I think it's better to deal with it after the fact. So I invented data feeds. Not really, but so that was way back when. Now, for the past 5 years, I left the network side of things, switched over to be an affiliate publisher. Myself started a company, and we use data feeds in our business every day, and we publish niche retail community websites. And product data feeds have been a foundation to the business that we built, publishing websites and being affiliates. So that's why, the past 10 years I've spent focused on data feeds as a big part of our business. So that's me. I want to introduce the panelists. They're here too, and I'll let them introduce themselves. We've got Larry Adams from Google Affiliate Network.
Hi, Larry Adams. I'm a product manager. I am the Scott Jangro of Google Affiliate Network. I, similar to Scott, have been working for the last few years to help make our data more accessible, consumed by more publishers, improve the quality of the data that advertisers are sending us. And I think we'll get into a lot of the details here today. We've been spending a lot of time over the past couple years since Google acquired our business, integrating with other systems and with Google Base and product search to get richer data to provide to our publishers, and also to help our advertisers give them more incentive to provide quality data by using it for more purposes. So I'm looking forward to the panel. I encourage you all to ask as many questions as you can. I can't promise that I can answer everything, but these guys can.
Don't know about that. I'm Shergul, Arshad, and I was told that Datafeeds can be somewhat dry, so I'm going to try to liven it up a little bit. I'll start with a small story about last night. I had a flight in from Boston, and it was very stressful because we left. It was bad weather. I didn't know if I was going to make it here, and then we're on the runway, and the guy a few rows behind us stops breathing. Medics come on the board. Long story short, I get out of my plane, it's midnight in Vegas, and I'm stressed out. I felt the need to go out and have a couple of cocktails. And I go to a place a bunch of folks maybe in the room we're at called Bank at the Bellagio, and it's about 2 o'clock, and I'm like, okay, I think I gotta head in. And I turn around and I see Larry, so I said, okay, all right, phew. So Larry was there, but it was a good time. So StyleFeeder is a publisher site, so we consume data feeds much in the same way that Scott does. If you guys are familiar with Last.fm or Pandora in the music space, that's kind of our take on shopping. Is we bring in retailer data feeds. So we got about 14 million products from 2,000 different retailers. And the way we sort through all the products and present them to consumers is based on their individual sense of style. So we've got over 1 million registered users that have created profiles on StyleFeeder and rate items such that when they come back to the site and are looking for a purse, a skirt, a couch, a rug, whatever it may be, instead of seeing the tried and true sort by price or sort by color, we're sorting it based on your individual style. So it can really help a consumer rifle through all the thousands of their hundreds of favorite stores and favorite products, and we are collapsing that time to help you find what you're looking for, therefore increasing click-through rates and ultimately conversion rates. StyleFeeder is based in Cambridge, Mass, and before that I was with eBay and a company called Fair Market and briefly at Amazon. So background in e-commerce, relatively new to data feeds, but I can certainly tell you how they're critical to our business.
Hi, I'm Brian Smith from SingleFeed. I have lots of background in online marketing. I ran my first affiliate program back in 1998 for a company called VarsityBooks.com. Moved into sort of being a super affiliate for some sites like Ancestry.com and Netflix, or really, really early on when they started their program. Over the years, I've done SEO, pay-per-click, affiliate programs. I even got into yucky things like adware. But somewhere around 2005, started a site called comparisonengines.com, which talked about the shopping engines. Shopping.com, Nextag, PriceGrabber, Google Product Search, and eventually started a company called SingleFeed, which helps merchants submit, manage, and optimize their product listings on various shopping sites, like the ones I mentioned. SingleFeed is a venture-backed company in Silicon Valley, based in San Francisco, actually. So we help merchants succeed on shopping sites, and obviously affiliate networks are working more and more with data feeds, so that's why I'm here.
All right, thanks, guys. All right, here's how this will go. I've got a big list of questions. I don't want to use them all, but I will if I have to.
Don't do it.
So the goal is to raise, I think the goal for me is to raise more awareness of product data feeds. I think everyone, I don't think everyone really understands the opportunity. And I think that, it's for merchants and for the networks, it's a big investment to build these feeds. And for them to invest, they need the return. And so, but to get the return, the publishers need to use them. So I want to just get everybody thinking more and more about product data. Selfishly, as an affiliate who uses data feeds, I want more high quality data feeds. There's actually a little torn here because there's something to be said for being able to do something great with really bad quality stuff, because no one else can, not many people can do good stuff with it. But that aside, I think that we can all benefit from more awareness and more visibility into best practices and how to make great use of this incredible resource that we have. And I was actually at a few sessions yesterday, and in both of those sessions, the subject of data feeds came up, and that was encouraging. So think about questions of your own, and we'll go through some of these, but I'd love to get some audience questions as well. All right. So first, though, I want to ask you guys a question. Yeah, I'm going to do this. Will all the merchants, advertisers raise their hands? Just give us an idea of who's out here. Come on, Brad, get the hand up. Okay, everyone who uses feeds now or provides, leave them up, merchants. If you use feeds, provide feeds, put your hand down. All right, so we got some experience on the merchant side. All right, on the other hand, affiliates, put your hands up. Same questions. If you use feeds, put your hand down.
Wow.
All right. Thank you. Just give us an idea of the audience. This is the third group, networks. I won't ask you a question. All right, so as we mentioned, product data has been around for a long time. And I was walking over here, and I overheard someone saying they were going to the data feed panel, and to somebody else who said, what's new in data feeds? And that's a fair question. So that's the first question I want to pose. It's kind of just product data. But what's been going on in the past, I think for a long time, nothing really has changed. But in the past couple of years, I think there have been some advances. So I want to ask the panel, what especially Larry from one of the networks, what improvements have been made to product data recently?
I'd have to say, I mean, honestly, on the advertiser side, we've seen more adoption. So I think roughly half of our advertisers now are sending data feeds to us. That coverage improved when we integrated with Google Base, because there were a lot of our advertisers that were already sending feeds to Base that weren't necessarily sending feeds to for their affiliate program, and so now we can piggyback on that relationship. But in general, I haven't seen a lot of innovation or improvement on the advertiser side. On the flip side, I think on the publisher side, maybe in response to that a bit, I have seen publishers get more creative with the data. It's not, we're not seeing as much people putting up a site and just throwing up a browse tree and letting people just go and find products. And I think you'll hear about this a little bit more from Shergul, but deriving interesting information from the feeds to actually provide some value, rather than just taking the catalog and regurgitating it out on your site. So I think that's the really intriguing thing is taking this huge library of data and finding something interesting and mining that feed for interesting data. On our side, we're trying to figure out ways to make the data more accessible, to make it easier to consume, to provide more personalization so that a publisher can grab the stuff they want and avoid the stuff they don't want, get better information about number of products and what fields are being included and that sort of thing. But really, I feel like the network's role in this is to be the facilitator. I mean, we're just trying to reduce friction between the advertisers and the publishers and make sure that we push our advertisers to get the highest quality data and try and make sure that as many publishers who want the data can have access to it.
From my perspective, we've almost been fighting a battle one at a time with lots of the different retail partners. It's interesting. There's probably about 30% of the data feeds that we receive that we would call truly excellent. Probably another 40% that are acceptable and that we have to do all kinds of stuff to get the data we want from there to properly categorize things and get the right product attributes out of each set. And then there's about 30% that, and some of them are really big retailers. where we want to import the data, but it's just not coming in the right format. And so in sort of 60 to 70% of the occasions, there's opportunities for improvement. And so, one of the things that's sort of we're on a campaign, obviously, to try to help improve those. So we've been overly communicative with folks that have reached out, and we've reached out to retailers as well. A lot of this is, I think to the earlier point around, I think retailers sometimes need to be shown what are they missing by not providing accurate data. So why is the investment worthwhile? And in the past, potentially, just to enable yet another price comparison site or another, sort of tree category, maybe a coupon site, et cetera, wasn't necessarily as compelling enough. But I think, as Larry mentioned, there's innovation happening from all kinds of affiliates out there. I think it's become easier than ever for folks to take advantage of a lot of the open source technology. So there's less capital investments from the affiliate side, and yet more tools available for innovation. And so, we've been working almost, it's not so much with the networks, because it's sort of hard to envision a one-size-fits-all data feed, but rather directly with the retailers. So that's sort of where we've been focused on the improvement side.
So I'd agree there hasn't been much innovation, which is sort of sad. I've been looking at data feeds for 6 years now, and not much has changed. But in the last, let's say, 18 months or so, what I have seen is that data feeds have become more complex. So the networks, or in my case, definitely the shopping engines, are actually requiring more attributes from the merchants, which I think is a good thing. More product attributes give the shopping engines, or whoever the publishers are, more opportunities to do good creative things. So that's a good positive sign that we're moving in that direction. Unfortunately, also, it just screws things up for all the merchants out there, in that there's another data feed format with another attribute which isn't supported across all the other networks. So still dealing with some problems which have been out there for a long time. And then also, I am starting to see that merchants themselves are starting to recognize the value of these data feeds, but it's taking a really, really, really long time. They've done, so my business is growing because lots of merchants have seen that SEO has taken off. Great. Pay-per-click has taken off. Great. But they're looking for that next great channel. Some of it could come from affiliates, the shopping engines, email marketing, whatever. But now they're being forced to deal with data feeds, which I think is a great thing. So merchants are actually finally paying attention.
Thanks. One of the things that I have seen more in the past couple of years is much more development of product APIs, API access to product data, rather than downloading text files filled with thousands and millions of rows of product data. Does any of you guys want to tackle the question of API versus data feed? Is API going to take over data feed or not? And why or why not?
Do you want to start? I have an opinion, but I don't want to be the first one to talk every time.
I don't have a huge opinion. No, I think it depends on what you're doing as an affiliate site. So I think APIs are manageable when you're taking in fewer of them. Time, speed, the processing of it. For a site like StyleFeeder, literally pulling several thousand data feeds, it's not a scalable solution right now to just focus on API. So in our case, I don't see that as a solution. I don't think it's going to ever be an either or. I think there's a place for coexisting. I think even StyleFeeder might start to use a few APIs, but in general, for our business, just for a speed and size constraint alone, we're not shifting towards API.
So I think look, Amazon has a great API, eBay has a great API. I think a lot of publishers out there are using those types of APIs, and that's awesome. But not everyone has access to that. Not everyone understands how APIs work. Sometimes it's just easier to use a catalog in a flat format, like a TXT file. So I'd agree that I think that we're just going to be playing with both of these technologies for a while. One of them sort of simple, sort of stupid. One of them a little bit more flexible and smart, but it's going to take a while for everyone to move over to the flexible, smart APIs.
Yeah, I'd say there are different applications for the two techniques. If you're building a site like Shergul's, you need every single product to have that sort of comprehensive data, and an API isn't really appropriate for that. And so you're going to want to take FTPs or some other way of getting, sucking down the entire feed and then bringing that into your own database and performing computations on it so that you can derive your own information and relationships between the data. I think APIs are becoming useful for other uses, so as to create a real-time, contextually aware ad unit. You can rely on the provider's API and indexing and infrastructure so that you can have really fresh results. The nice thing about an API is that it tends to be, the data will tend to be a little fresher because you're going to the source rather than, creating this latency of, receiving the file, intaking it into your own system, publishing it out to wherever your servers are. So we have, traditionally not offered an API. One of the reasons why we integrated with Google Base was because they have a nice API and they index all of that product for product search. And we're experimenting right now with using that API to create contextually aware or keyword targeted ads so that to provide a richer experience and see how that performs versus traditional banners and text advertising.
Yeah, so I think every major network in the US anyway, I'm less familiar with the networks in Europe, have APIs and data feeds. And I don't think data feeds have ever been more accessible. You used to have to pay for them. I think it's free access for most networks now. So to kind of bring it to, for the folks who haven't done anything or much with data feeds.
Is there a question?
Is there a question?
Yes.
Sure.
For StyleFeeder, you were talking about being a consumer of APIs or providing your own?
No. So good question. So to clarify, I was referring to the consuming of it. We actually do publish our API, which allows folks to access the ratings and recommendations and some of the data around style twins, what some people style feeds. I can go into all kinds of detail, but it's sort of in a 1.0 format right now. We have folks that are accessing it. Elle Magazine is currently using our API. A site called Zimbio is using our API, and we've created the largest shopping app on Facebook, obviously using an API as well. It's the StyleFeeder Facebook app.
All right, so for publishers just starting out with data feeds or maybe struggling, not having much success, what would you guys recommend for how to get started, how to break the seal?
I'd say start small. You can overwhelm yourself with millions and millions of products and wind up dealing with the scale issue before you deal with the usefulness issue. So I would say, talk to Shergul afterwards and find out who has some good feeds and start with those because you want to start with high quality data. So you don't, dealing with bad data is a difficult problem. So, leave that for your second step. Find some good quality feeds that aren't too big so that you can figure out how you're going to use them. And then you can start to figure out the ways that you're going to improve the bad data and work that into your, or just ignore that entirely until the advertisers provide high quality data. There's literally tens of millions of products available to you for free. And you can be selective, and you don't need to have every single product to have a good experience for your users.
I think it boils down to what your site does. So I think Scott referenced earlier, having a couple of niche and successful verticals. I think one of them is a costume site, and he also has a shoe site. So it's manageable in the sense that you can probably access the right 20 or so data feeds and cover a really large volume of product and be comprehensive in your vertical. I think, you know, for us, we're focused on clothing, accessories, shoes, jewelry, and home furnishings. But we also have consumer electronics and books and media products, and so it can get, you know, pretty big, pretty overwhelming, pretty quickly. So I would say it depends on what business you're in, and if you're in a niche, it's probably easier to tackle and start off.
Yeah, I'd agree. Go after high quality guys. So go after, and truthfully, I would start with APIs. For as much as I don't think everyone's moved there, if you're going to do things right from the start, APIs have a wealth of information that you can access. You can make calls and get whatever you want back. So, you know, I'm not as familiar with CJ's or LinkShare's APIs and what you can do there if they actually have anything that's substantial. But you do run into an issue that, you know, 30% of the data feeds are going to be good and 70% are eh. So I'd look at, you know, Amazon, eBay, Shopping.com, Shopzilla. I would have said Yahoo Shopping, but that's not going to happen anymore. So look at some of the big guys out there publishing a lot of great data, and most likely everyone else has built best practices from what those guys have done. So look at the big guys, figure out what they've done, figure out what you can access, how you can access it, what you can do with it, and then move on and just expand from there.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing. I think, you know, there's a fine line between, you know, copying and searching for inspiration. I think, you know, look at who's doing it well, and, you know, don't do what they're doing, but go and actually shop through your competitors' sites and see, you know, find out what you like and what you dislike, and organize your thoughts around how you're going to use this data that way. You know, put yourself in the shoes of a consumer, and, you know, find out what's useful to you as you're going out and trying to find something. Like, just, you know, sit down and pretend that you're shopping for, you know, a new TV, and see how hard it is, and see what features are useful and what are not, and that'll, I think, guide you in the right direction.
Yeah, I don't think the world needs another shopping comparison engine or price comparison engine. There are lots of them out there. But, you know, what else can you do that's really interesting, that's unique, that really adds value, whether it's to your audience or to a specific vertical or niche, whatever it is.
The question?
Hi, Lauren Goodell from Savings.com. And you mentioned that 70% of the data feeds are suboptimal, and we've definitely experienced the same thing. I was curious what you feel the major hurdles are in getting that to a higher number. Is it just standardization and coordination, or is it the merchants themselves being concerned about having data out there in an open format, a combination of both? And I guess what I'm trying to get at is a little insight into the future.
I can start on that. So I think that it is much more of a merchant rather than a network. I think the networks are all, you know, they're all sort of in our same position, that having better data feeds is helpful, and they're certainly willing to assist, as are a lot of affiliates. We've seen really high quality data feeds across all the major networks, and we've also seen really lousy ones across all the major networks. So at the actual merchant level, I think some of the key issues going on are actually probably the biggest ones are on categories and categorization, as well as descriptions and keywords and you know, customer confusion. I think what was just said around shopping for a television is absolutely correct. So put yourself in the consumer's mindset, right? And if you have a sweater and it's a men's sweater versus a women's sweater, we'll tell people that it's a men's sweater. We can't guess that that's going to be a men's sweater, and if it shows up in the wrong categorization, then one option is to not import your data feed. I think that there's other, you know, specifics I can get into. You know, pricing. Sometimes everyone feels a need to push everything into the sale price column of a data feed, when in fact, you know, you might have sort of like the everyday sale price versus the special sale price, and you don't want to create confusion and also throw off some of those price comparisons that are happening. I think err on the side of more information, and most networks and most formats allow you to insert special columns. So take advantage of those. So certainly you want to, provide as much information that'll help a site like ourselves filter through that information, properly categorize things, and then take advantage of the descriptive information, keywords and your item descriptions and multiple images, all of that to then provide a better experience for the end consumer.
I think the networks need to sell better. I think they need to, where's the case study that says, here are the sites that don't use data feeds, here are the ones that do. Here are the merchants that have great data feeds, here are the ones who don't. Who's doing better? Where are the case studies talking about this stuff? And once they can now push that out to their network, then I think more people are going to be using data feeds, and they're going to be using richer data feeds. My whole company is built around great data feeds. I don't take in data and port it out. I take in data, and it's a lot of data. And I validate it and I correct it. And before I send it anywhere else, we do optimization work. We categorize for all shopping engines, 17 shopping engines out there, so that we make sure that we're sending great data out. I don't think there's been an effort on the network side to really say really good product data matters. So I think that standardization can help, categorization, all these things. Yeah, eventually we'll most likely, hopefully, have some standardization out there. But I think the key right now is to get some of the networks to say, this is what happens when you do it versus when you don't do it. Prove the case and sell it better.
So let's dig a little more into the standardization question. Is there hope for standardization? Can we standardize? And what type of things could be standardized? What does it mean to standardize in the first place? I mean, a lot of people use that word, throw it around, but when you get down, the devil's in the details sort of thing, it's a really difficult problem. What do you guys think?
So I think when people say standardization, the first thing that comes to mind is categories for most people. Building a common taxonomy that works for 2,000 different merchants and tens of millions of products it's an extremely difficult problem. I don't think anybody's figured it out yet. I know lots and lots of companies have spent lots of time and effort to do that. They've tried to push it back on merchants. They've tried to build their own solutions and spend time to create their own taxonomies, map things into that, and then map those taxonomies to each individual comparison engines. That's all worthwhile and good effort, and I think that's important because you need to be able to compare products. I mean, the whole point of this is so that you can look at products in relation to one another and make a purchasing decision. I think more important than that is standardization within your own feed. Send descriptions for everything. Send prices for everything. It's really unacceptable to have a feed that's incomplete. And I think the first place to start is to make sure that your own feed adheres to a set of standards so that you've got descriptions that are consistent between products, and you're using the same category taxonomy within your own feed for all of the products, because that at least makes it easier for somebody down the line to make those connections for you.
I'd say that at least starting out, or if you're looking to optimize right off the bat, the leaders in the space like an Amazon or a Zappos, but even folks like Golden Can, Pop Shops, who have taken a crack at the taxonomy and the categorization, and here's the right flow, and those seem to be instead of replicated, oftentimes there's folks trying to invent their own, and then how do you retrofit what one person's calling a sandal versus what one person's calling a heel, and all the confusion that could ensue from that. I think the other sort of piece of standardization where the soft goods area where we specialize in, there's so many items that don't really have a UPC code attached to it, right? So it works really well. It's easy in consumer electronics and media products. There's unique identifiers, ISBN codes for books, and as much as possible, please sort of put in SKU information, keep it consistent with each feed. And so it's really the only way for us to sometimes compare products. So what's a not satisfying consumer experience is if they see, let's say, the same red shoe on our site or on Scott's site 20 different times, just because the data feeds were so inconsistent that we couldn't recognize that those were the same shoe. So frankly, your products are going to sell based on all the other attributes that you're putting in there. And on a site like ours, it's being pushed through based on style. Ultimately, it is a challenge at the merchant level. I don't know if standardization, though, is realistic, especially in the soft goods category.
So I see two questions with standardization. One is, what you call things, title versus product name, and then the second is the categorization problem. So with what you call things, there will not be an effort to really put together a great standard. It's been tried before for the shopping engines. It failed miserably. But I can tell you that Google Base, or Google Product Search, or Google Shopping, or Frugal, or whatever you want to call it these days, they will win out to some extent and be the standard. And shopping.com and other sites like that already accept their data feed, basically. So from what you call things, we'll be calling things whatever Google calls things in a little bit. So he should be happy over there. Because truthfully, Google Product Search has more merchants submitting data feeds than almost anyone else out there. There's one other which has more, but they do it through not just data feeds, but scraping also. So they will do very well, and merchants will adopt their program and then go on to someone else and say, oh, this is a pain in the ass. Why don't I just submit my Google-based feed? So in terms of naming things, we'll sort of get there. There won't be this big organization that has it. We're just going to use Google Base. So that's already starting to happen. You can see that. With the categorization, I've actually asked everyone in this room what they want, because we talked a little bit before this call. SingleFeed, we've gone out and spent lots of money with library science professionals, going out and looking at 20 different taxonomies, and we've created a mega taxonomy. So we have one taxonomy which maps to everyone else, and I'm fine putting this up for free. Anyone can use it. Obviously, I might use it as like a lead generation tool for my business, but I'm willing to give it out there, and it saves you from mapping to 4 different affiliate networks categories. But I haven't necessarily heard from everyone that you want this. We've spent tens of thousands of dollars. We've worked with the top library science professionals out there. We can give you your mega taxonomy. You map once, or you can choose whatever node you want, however specific you want to get. And we can give this out there for free. But I don't know if anyone wants it. We use it, and it helps us. I don't know if it'll help merchants or publishers or whoever. Does anyone want it?
Yeah. I'd also say.
Okay.
I'd also say there's not necessarily a single right answer. I think part of the reason this is a tough problem, the categories in particular, is there's not a single right answer of where a product should go. In a prior life, I worked for an e-commerce software company, and the way that we designed our software was that you had a single set of products that fit into a product categorization scheme, and then you could define multiple assortments so that you could have the product show, for a shoe, for instance, it could show up in one taxonomy where it was a leaf off of the sportswear section. Another taxonomy was a leaf off of men's apparel, and you could envision it being in several different places and being correct in each one of those places. And so I think that's why everybody struggles with this, is that there's a human aspect to this, and everybody's got a different schema in their mind about how they think about the organization of this information.
I actually think that people struggle just on the basic, so I agree with that. And again, Google, with the standard out there, they accept a product. You can put a product in more than one category. Most shopping engines, you can't do that. So that's a great first move. So there is a problem there. The first problem, though, is just getting merchants to actually list a category properly. We see data feeds all the time that say sale price or new item as the category. That doesn't do anyone any good. So getting all the merchants talking together on some sort of standard, at least here are 17,000 options, which basically everyone uses. That's a nice first step, at least.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, it's what we see when we receive this data is it's often just a reflection of where the product is showing up on the site at that time. And that's probably the wrong way to do it. You probably want to have, your products in some standard, categorization scheme, and that you can apply additional attributes to that, so that it's organized. You can further refine the organization without breaking that fundamental schema.
I'll take a poll. Do we have questions? Are there any questions people would like to ask? I'm going to make you talk into a microphone. Is this on? So that everyone can hear the questions. A couple over here. Start with you.
Hi, my name's Sherry, and I have a website called coolchecks.net. And I ran into a problem when 4Checks moved to Google Affiliate Network, that then the way that I learned how to do data feeds from ShareASale, now all of a sudden I have 2 different table structures to work with. And then I had Commission Junction added to that. Now I have 3 different table structures to work with. And working with the SQL queries on the PHP pages means it's easier to work with all of these in one table, so you can pull everybody together. And I've had to hire somebody to write me a script to keep that updated so it's a hands-off deal. And how common is this problem, or is it just, have you come across this problem before? I have a couple other questions for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that gets a little bit to the standardization issue. We're not, we provide data in a slightly different structure than does CJ or ShareASale, and I think most affiliates have experienced this. This may be the first time that you've experienced it. Now you've built a solution around it, and the next time it happens, you'll be able to adapt a little bit easier. It's, it's one of the, it's just, I think, one of the costs of doing business, in that there are multiple networks. We're all providing the same data in slightly different ways, but really, I think the cost, it's a one-time cost, and it's an unfortunate thing that you have to deal with. But now I think it's once you've gone through that once, it'll be less painful in the future.
Yeah, I mean, we're a 7-person company. 5 of them are engineers, and 1 of them is dedicated full-time just to data feeds, working with the different networks, sort of getting the different file types. And I think that, as Larry mentioned, it is sort of the cost of doing business if you want to tackle across the networks. Sort of back to the standardization question, I think one of the reasons why there's competing interests around standardization, because the CJs and Linkshares of the world aren't going to really want to be subject to changes from Google Base if Google Base becomes the accepted standard feed. So I think understanding that unfortunately it's a competitive market out there. There's multiple networks. There's 4 or 5 that everyone should be working with, and just building out the right infrastructure to tackle those feeds is sort of par for the course. Or using companies that do it for you.
Sorry. You're going to be successful because of what you're doing. You're going to be a super affiliate because you can look at all this data and standardize it and present it to your users in a great way and automate things using APIs or whatever they have, versus a regular old affiliate there is going to look at that and be like, ugh, I don't want to deal with it. So it's the cost of doing business.
Yeah, you're on the right track. I knew you had more. Let's get a few more. I'll come back to you.
Hi, name's Brian. On both the merchant and affiliate side, one question I come across repeatedly is how to optimize for Google product search. I would just love to hear from each one of you 3 things you must do and 3 things that you should not do. And I think the 3 things you should not do are probably more important. But there's a lot of people online who sell sort of their skill set as being able to optimize for product search, and I know a lot of it's sort of witchcraft, and be curious to hear your thoughts.
All right, go ahead, Larry.
Yeah,
it's your company.
This is one of those questions I can't quite answer, but the response that we give merchants who ask this question is generally, look at the data that you're sending. I think what we see a lot of times is that you'll set up a data feed and you'll never think about it again. It's one of those automated processes. It's just data that's getting spit out of your database. And so you work with your engineer for a week or a day or however long it takes. And once it gets up and running and you get the thumbs up from your network that they're receiving it and it's going every day, you never think about it again because it's one of those things that just runs in the background. And I think that is, that's a mistake. You need to, periodically take a look at what's coming out of there, look at how the data is being presented, do queries on Google product search. What do you, if you're not coming up for a query, or if you're coming up low, take a look at that individual offer as it's coming out of your feed and, are the words you're typing into the engine actually in the description of the product? If they're not, there's a good chance that it's not going to show up. And so you need to make sure that there's that some basics are there. And then, it gets to, rich product descriptions, good categorization, I'll reiterate, sale prices or sale or clearance is not a category. It's a descriptor, it's not a category. And so make sure that that information is showing up in the right columns in your feed. And I think you'll find that you can improve your results pretty quickly.
The sort of quick take on that might be that your store or as a retailer, whenever the consumer is searching and using that store name, you're probably going to do very well, right? So it goes without saying that because of the affiliation to the store and your product data feed being supplied, I think it's the big opportunity that's being missed and some folks are starting to take advantage of is oftentimes people are starting their searches on Google, not store and many times not brand specific, right? So they're searching for black cocktail dress, not necessarily, typing in the word Nordstrom's in there and not necessarily typing in, Donna Karan or whatever. So how are you showing up in those instances? So if you've provided, I think, just to reiterate, content in the form of rich descriptions, also making it original and refreshing it often is going to help. And then relying on, some of the partners, the interaction of data that, for example, a site like StyleFeeder can provide. When we're mixing data from across lots of different retailers and your products have surfaced based on what our users are saying about them, writing comments, lots of the organic content that's being contributed on some of the social sites out there, sites like ourselves, but also even as people start tweeting about it and are talking about it on Facebook, and there's stuff that's being created that Google at this point, obviously no one has the secret key, but original content is always going to be valuable because that's something that's original to that property. So keeping that in mind, I think is a good start.
So SingleFeed is one of 4 Google product search partners. Channel Advisor, Channel Intelligence, Mercent being the other guys. We are the ones who work with small and medium-sized businesses, $200,000 to $20 million a year in annual revenue. We also work with plenty of the bigger guys, but that's our core. So we work with this problem every day. How do you get to the top of Google product search? Larry said it right. This is not something that you set and forget. It can't be. I come from a background of mostly SEO. I did lots of other stuff, but mostly SEO. The way I thought of SEO was you can win or lose. You can win by thinking of it as a war against everyone else out there, or you can lose by thinking of it as a game and sort of thinking about it every once in a while and sort of doing things. I want people to do A/B testing on titles and descriptions. I want people to try out one thing versus another thing, week over week, day over day, whatever it is. The basic information that will get you better results across any shopping engine is more data and better data. So don't put in crappy stuff, put in good stuff. Again, fill out all the titles and descriptions and things like that, but then go above and beyond. Are you using, tax and shipping? Are you entering color and size? Are you entering width, length, height? All those other attributes make a big difference. Categorization on Google product search. All of these things, go into a nice big algorithm. So I'm not going to say, what we think the perfect thing is, and no good SEO firm would say, I can get you to the top of Google. They're lying, or they can get you at the top of Google for some crappy little search. So the best practice is, provide more data, provide better data. Look at all the optional attributes, look at the recommended attributes. What can you use there? Make sure you're using tax and shipping. And just in general, go above and beyond. I'd also point you to loveyourfeed.com, site that we have that just talks about all these tactics. And everything should be a tactic. Everything should be a test. So you should be using some analytics program. I don't care if it's Omniture or Google Analytics or Core Metrics or whatever, but you should be tracking everything you do and seeing what makes a difference. So lots of testing. That'll give you some ideas of what's working. Love Your Feed has lots of these tactics out there.
Not to call out anyone negatively, because purposely don't want to do that, but I will call out some positive feeds out there, and they're across the network. So I think you can see that it's not necessarily a network issue, but more on the merchant. But if you are looking for folks that are doing a good job on their data feed, Nordstrom, ShoeBuy, Target, and CSN stores and furniture. So those are just scratching the surface, but I wanted to call out an example for you guys to look at with regards to doing a good job on the data quality. Nordstrom, ShoeBuy, Target, these guys, and CSN.
Yeah, and I wanted to follow up on what Brian said. It can seem like a really daunting task to improve a product catalog of 100,000 products or something like that. So start small, right? Take a category and put some effort into it. Spend a week. If you have to do it, hand code and improve the descriptions, and then measure for a while and see what works. And you'll be able to see whether there's a payoff, right? And if you see a jump in traffic because of the work that you put in, you can convince your boss that it's worth doing it for the rest of the feed.
All right, it's 5 or so minutes left. Let's do rapid answers.
Okay, quick question. For duplicate content issues, would you suggest going through and changing descriptions of products to help with your SEO efforts?
I would actually, if it was me personally, I would just pick the best one. If it's duplicate content, it's duplicate content. So figure out which one works best. Use the product reporting. Use your own analytics. And if one of your, if you've got two basically duplicate products, pick the one that's getting the traffic and dump the other one.
Is it best practice to give different data to your affiliates that you use yourself as a merchant, would you guys say? To prevent duplicate content issues on the search engines?
I don't think that's an issue, personally. I think, if all you're doing is just taking what the merchant is giving you and spitting it out on your site verbatim, you're not adding a lot of value, and chances are you're not going to get a ton of traffic for that anyway. So you need to be doing something more than just redistributing content, and then it just becomes a matter of what you do with it.
Yeah, I would look at it as the affiliates that you're working with, sort of the publisher sites. They're the ones that are adding that something to get you the SEO, but the bar for entry is getting the right descriptions. If you don't have the right descriptions, and the consumer, assuming they've found you and they've hit the right landing page with an item, if there's not enough description there, and there's not enough you're not going to get the click-throughs, and you're not going to get the conversions. So rely on maybe even be more selective on the types of affiliates and the types of publishers you work with, and understand that there's some of them doing a great job at generating SEO.
I guess this is a follow-up on that, but one of our concerns is, if you fire out a feed out there and then your unique product, your unique descriptions is suddenly, you've got 200 sites have that same product with the same descriptions, etc. How do you protect your site from getting hammered as duplicate content after you put all that out there?
I mean, I think the same advice applies. You know, as a merchant, you have you have the advantage of having additional data. You've got sales rank and related products and what other people are buying. So I think it's a question of augmenting what you've got. I mean, you're just distributing the catalog data, but what else are you doing to merchandise that content? That's going to drive more of how you're showing up in search engines than whether your data is in 10 different places or 100.
More questions?
Hi, I was wondering if you had any advice on how, when you're letting all this data out to the affiliates and distributing it, how can you kind of keep them updating and staying current so you're not creating a bad user experience when somebody clicks on something, comes to your site, and it's not there anymore? We publish both an XML feed of content of coupons and an API that gets updated every 20 minutes. Stuff gets added and hits distribution limits and disappears. And also, how would you suggest policing the resyndication of that content so that the brands that you have on your site don't end up in places that it shouldn't be?
I mean, I can start to tackle that. I think that so the second part of that first, policing of your own site. That's in our instance, we've got a large community. We have 2.5 million folks coming in every month, and there's a lot of policing that's happening. We've created some automated systems for detecting types of products that we don't allow. So I think that there's the good affiliates, the bad affiliates that are out there that are then spamming and using all kinds of other tactics. Obviously I'd just say not work with them. On the sort of the front piece, I should pass it to some of the other guys.
I mean, I think Shergul got it. If you search Google, search Bing, find where your products are showing up. If you don't like it, have a conversation with your publisher. I know how in our link format you can see the publisher's ID in there, so you can identify who it is, and I think that's really the key, right? You need to know who you're working with, what they're doing with the data, and if they're not upfront about it, then chances are they're not doing something you want them to do.
One more quick question. Someone back here? No more questions? All right, well, we're out of time anyway, so thank you. We'll be up here at the end if any of you want to come chat some more about this topic. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.